You ever sit in silence with your phone in your hand, hoping she texts back? And she doesn't, you refresh it, you second, guess yourself. You even reread your last message like it's scripture, hoping you didn't say something wrong. But deep down, it's not about the message. It's about who you are, or more painfully, who you feel you aren't. Let's be honest too. Today's world has lied to you. It told you that having abs, money, and flashy photos would make you desirable. That if you hustle hard enough or look sharp enough, women would come running. But here you are, tired, drained, wondering why connection still feels so far away. Let me tell you something most won't. Women aren't magnetized by noise. They are drawn to gravity, emotional gravity. And emotional gravity is forged in silence, not selfies. You don't have to chase. You don't have to perform. You don't even have to speak loud to be heard. What you need is presence, not bravado, not games, presence. The kind that comes from self-mastery, from stoic fire beneath still waters. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you were before the world taught you to beg for love. Let's rebuild that. Let's remind you what true power feels like, and why, when you reclaim it, the right woman doesn't just notice you, she respects you even before you say a word. You walk into a room and there are two types of men. One's loud. He's cracking jokes. He's got the crowd around him. He's performing like his worth depends on it. The other man, he's quiet, calm, not in a corner but present. He doesn't demand attention, he draws it. And without saying a word, everyone knows there's something about him. Let me ask you, who do you think the woman in the room notices first? Not just with her eyes, but with her gut. It's the man who's still, not passive, not timid, just rooted. You see, most men today think they have to do something to be noticed, to be loved. They hustle for attention. They flash status, scream confidence, try to prove they're enough. But in reality, all that effort smells like desperation. Women can feel it. That need to be seen, to be validated. It repels more than it attracts, because true masculine energy doesn't chase noise. It becomes the ground others stand on. Stillness is misunderstood. People think stillness is inaction. Weakness? Laziness? No. Stillness is control. It's a man so deeply aligned with himself that he doesn't feel the need to audition. It's power in restraint. A man who is still is a man who knows exactly who he is and doesn't flinch when others try to define him. Do you know how rare that is today? Women are overwhelmed by men trying too hard. The constant messages, the flexing, the what do you do and how much do you make, and look at me, energy. But when a man walks in with stillness, he brings peace with him. And peace is intoxicating. She feels safe. She feels seen without being chased. She's drawn, not pulled. Because the man who is still doesn't move for approval, he moves with intention, and that's what makes his presence magnetic. You don't have to say much when your silence already says, I am enough. Stillness is also what separates the emotional boy from the masculine man. Boys react, men respond. Boys panic when they're ignored. Men sit in the silence and let the truth rise. A stoic man has trained himself not to be controlled by his environment, but to center himself in it. That's the presence women crave, not the perfect pickup line or the most followers on Instagram. And I'll be honest, it takes work to get here. Because the world constantly tells you, if you're not visible, you're not valuable. But the Stoic knows real power doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It doesn't dance for attention. It waits patiently, knowing that the right woman sees what others overlook. And when she does, she won't just look, she'll respect. You see, it's not about pretending to be still to get the girl. That's manipulation, that's performance again. I'm talking about becoming still because you need to be. Because your soul is tired of being tossed around by rejection, by comparison, by fear. Because you've chased long enough. And now you're ready to stand, still, strong, silent but not empty. This is where it begins, in the pause. In the moment you realize you don't have to perform anymore. In the moment you sit with your own soul and say, even if no one claps, I'm still proud of who I am. That's when women start noticing. That's when people start listening. That's when you start leading, because presence beats performance every time. There's a certain kind of silence that speaks louder than words, not the cold shoulder, not the manipulative kind, but a deep, intentional silence, a man choosing not to speak because he doesn't need to. That silence is seductive, not because it plays games, but because it radiates something so rare in today's world. Restraint, and restraint, my dear brother, is power. We live in a time where men are taught to chase aggressively, text first, double text, stay funny, stay relevant, stay interesting. Don't let her get bored. That's the message. You've been made to feel like silence means losing her. But what if I told you that silence, when it comes from strength, not fear, is what truly pulls her in? You don't have to fill every gap with words to prove you're worthy of connection. You don't have to answer every message within seconds, as if she's a queen and you're her servant. You don't have to explain yourself over and over hoping she finally understands. Sometimes the most attractive thing you can do is to say nothing. Let me explain why. When a man goes silent, not to manipulate but to honor himself, he creates space. And space allows truth to rise. Women feel that. They feel when you've withdrawn, not to punish them, but to preserve your energy. They feel when your silence isn't cold, it's focused. Silence says, I'm not here to beg. Silence says, I've said all I needed to say. Silence says, you can come closer, but I won't chase you. And that changes everything. You see, seduction isn't always about showing more. Sometimes it's about revealing less, just enough to stir curiosity, but not so much that she has nothing left to discover. Men today are too accessible, you're too available. Every time she pulls back, you lean in harder. Every time she leaves you on read, you try to impress. That's not attraction, that's self-abandonment. And women don't respect a man who abandons himself for attention. But when you lean back, not out of ego, but out of inner peace, your silence does something powerful. It forces her to lean in, to wonder, to question her assumptions about you. That's the seduction, the mystery, the self-respect. Now, I'm not telling you to ghost women. I'm not saying to cut people off emotionally. What I'm saying is stop filling every moment with noise. Let her miss you. Let her sit in her own thoughts without you spoon, feeding her affection every hour. Let her ask, why isn't he trying harder? Because that's where respect begins. When you always reach first, you strip yourself of your gravity. But when you learn the art of silence, you become unpredictable. You become interesting. You become magnetic. Not because you're playing a game, but because you finally remembered. You don't need to convince anyone to choose you. That's where seduction begins. Not in trying harder, but in being more still, more calm, more disciplined with your voice. There's nothing more powerful than a man who can hold his silence in the face of desire, who can sit with uncertainty without reaching for validation, who doesn't need to talk to feel valuable. And let me tell you, when the right woman comes, she will feel that. She'll feel that your attention is sacred, not scattered. She'll feel that your silence isn't distant, it's dignity. So the next time you feel the urge to explain, to fix, to text her back immediately just to prove you're enough, pause. Let your silence speak for you. Let her wonder. Let your energy seduce, not your words. Because in a world full of noise, the man who can hold his silence becomes unforgettable rejection. That word alone can make your chest tighten, your throat dry up, and your mind spiral with questions. What did I do wrong? Wasn't I good enough? Why didn't she choose me? I get it. It hurts, it stings, and sometimes it feels deeply personal. But let me tell you something that may shift everything for you. Rejection is not the end of your story. It's the redirection of it. You see, we've all been there, invested in someone emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically, only to feel discarded like it meant nothing. You open up, you show your value, you offer your best self, and still she says no, or worse, she disappears without a word. And it leaves you broken, confused, angry. But here's what the Stoic man understands. Rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It's a message, an arrow from the universe pointing you away from something that doesn't align with who you're becoming. It's not that you weren't good enough. It's that she wasn't meant to meet the man you're about to be. You see, most men respond to rejection like children. They lash out, they beg, they turn bitter, they try to prove themselves harder. But all of that is noise, a distraction from the deeper lesson, and the lesson is this: you are not owed anything just because you tried. You're not entitled to a woman's love, her time, or her presence just because you showed up with good intentions. That's not how this works. Love is not earned through effort alone. It's a reflection, a connection. And sometimes, no matter how great you are, the answer will still be no. And you know what? That's okay. Because when you stop fighting rejection, you begin accepting redirection. You begin understanding that not every closed door is a failure. It's a filter, a divine one that keeps you from tying your soul to the wrong person, the wrong timing, the wrong dynamic. Some of the women you cried over would have destroyed your peace. Some of the girls you obsessed over would have dimmed your fire. Some of the attention you desperately wanted would have distracted you from purpose. Rejection saved you. You just couldn't see it at the time. Stoic men don't chase what leaves them. They don't grovel at the feet of someone who walks away. They nod, they say thank you, and they move on. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much about their own growth to beg someone to see their value. And listen to me, sometimes rejection doesn't come in silence. Sometimes it comes through disrespect, through inconsistency, through half-hearted love, and still you chase it, hoping that maybe, just maybe, if you give her more, she'll finally choose you. No, stop, let her go. If you have to convince someone to want you, you've already lost your power. You don't argue with rejection, you alchemize it. You take that pain and turn it into fuel, into refinement, into clarity. You use that no to get sharper with your standards, your self-awareness, your sense of self. And when the right woman finally comes, the one who sees you without you having to perform, you'll look back at every rejection and say, thank God that didn't work out. That's the beauty of this. What feels like loss today is often grace in disguise. So stop seeing rejection as punishment. See it as protection, a shield, a sacred boundary that's shaping you into someone who no longer chases love, but attracts it effortlessly. Because a man who accepts rejection with peace, with grace, with stoic stillness, that man becomes dangerous. Not because he's numb, but because he's free, and freedom is the one thing no woman can resist. You think she left because you weren't tall enough, because you didn't have a six-pack, because your car wasn't fancy or your wall, it wasn't thick enough. But I'll tell you something most men will never hear. It wasn't your body, it wasn't your bank account. It was your emotions. A man who cannot control his emotions is a man who cannot be trusted. You can have the looks. You can be physically strong. But if every time life gets hard, you fall apart, if every time she pulls away, you panic, if every time you're triggered, you lash out, then you're not leading. You're leaking. And women don't feel safe with a man who leaks. You see, emotional control isn't about becoming cold or robotic. That's not what I'm saying. This isn't about burying your feelings under fake strength. This is about being so deeply aware of your inner world that you're no longer controlled by it. That is rare, that is sexy, that is high value. In a world full of emotionally unstable men, men who argue in comment sections, men who spiral after one ignored text, men who lose themselves the moment they feel hurt, a man who stays centered, magnetic. He doesn't react, he responds, he doesn't explode, he observes, and when he speaks, it's from a place of clarity, not chaos. You know how attractive that is. Imagine this. A woman tests you. Maybe she says something passive, aggressive. Maybe she pulls away emotionally to see how you'll respond. Not because she's toxic, but because women want to feel your core. Not your charm, your center. She wants to feel that you don't break under pressure, that you won't crumble the moment she challenges you. And when you stay calm, when you hold the moment instead of being ruled by it, she feels that. She feels your strength. Because emotional control says, I don't need you to make me feel whole. I can love you, but I will never lose myself in you. That's power. Now let me be clear, emotional control doesn't mean you never feel anything. You're human, you should feel. You should hurt, you should process pain, but you do it with discipline, with grace, with a sacred pause between the emotion and the reaction. You feel it, but you don't let it drive your actions. That pause, that sacred space, that's what makes you different. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's emotional control. It's knowing that no woman, no rejection, no external chaos has the right to pull you out of alignment unless you let it. And guess what? The moment you become that man, the one who doesn't beg for closure, the one who doesn't clap back at disrespect, the one who can walk away with silence and self-respect, you stop attracting chaos. You stop attracting women who feed on drama. You stop repeating toxic patterns. You stop bleeding your emotions onto people who were never meant to hold them. Because now you are your own anchor. She might still test you, life might still try you, but you'll stop reacting like a boy. You'll lead like a man, calm, clear, centered, and that more than muscles, more than status, more than flash, is what separates a boy from a king. So if you've been working on your body, good, but now it's time to work on your spirit, on your patience, your awareness, your ability to breathe when it burns, because the most seductive man in the room is not the loudest, not the most ripped, not the richest. It's the man who's unshakable. Emotional control is the real flex. You want to know what really pulls a woman in, what makes her pause mid-conversation, look you in the eyes, and feel something she can't explain. It's not your car, not your watch, not even your looks. It's the invisible signal, the one that can't be faked, bought, or forced. It's your discipline, self, Discipline is one of the most powerful, yet least talked about, forces of attraction. Why? Because it's quiet, it doesn't announce itself, it just radiates, and a woman can feel it even if she can't name it. You see, when a man has control over his own life, his habits, his urges, his focus, he sends a message: I am safe within myself, I am not ruled by chaos, I am building something real. That is irresistible. It tells her that you're not a slave to your desires, that you're not going to fall apart the second things don't go your way, that your life isn't driven by validation but by vision, and that vision, that structure, that inner discipline. It builds trust, because let's be honest, there are too many men today who have no discipline. They can't stop scrolling. They can't hold a routine. They chase women out of boredom. They smoke, drink, binge, escape, and then wonder why nothing in their life feels solid. But discipline is your structure. It's the foundation your masculinity stands on. And when a woman meets a man with discipline, she feels it immediately. Not just because of what he does, but because of what he doesn't do. He's not texting her at 3 a.m. begging for attention. He's not blowing up her phone when she doesn't reply fast enough. He's not chasing random highs to fill a deeper emptiness. He's focused, and that focus isn't rigid, it's magnetic. A man with discipline doesn't need to prove himself. His life speaks for him, the way he walks, the way he talks, the way he says no when it's easier to say yes, the way he prioritizes his goals over his temptations. That's the man she remembers. Let me tell you something the world won't. Women are watching how you live, not just how you treat them, but how you treat yourself, how you handle your money, how you wake up in the morning, how you carry your mission even when no one's clapping. She's watching if you can delay gratification, if you can suffer for the sake of your future, if you have the restraint to stay grounded while everyone else is lost in distraction. Because if you can lead yourself, she'll trust you to lead her. But if you can't even keep your promises to yourself, how can she feel safe giving you her trust? And listen, this isn't about being perfect. It's not about becoming a machine. It's about building integrity, the quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need applause, the kind that doesn't crumble under lust or boredom or insecurity. Discipline is the signal that says, I know who I am and I refuse to betray him. That is masculine energy at its highest level. And the beautiful thing, discipline isn't about impressing anyone, it's about becoming someone you respect, someone you're proud of, someone who can walk into any room and not need validation because you're already in alignment. And once you become that man, you don't need to chase women, you don't need to manipulate attraction. You attract without lifting a finger because your discipline is already speaking for you, loudly, clearly, and irresistibly. There's something sacred that happens when a man walks into a room and brings calm with him. He doesn't have to speak loudly, he doesn't need to dominate, he doesn't demand attention, he simply is. And the energy around him shifts. That is masculine power, but not the power of force, not aggression, not ego. I'm talking about the quiet, unshakable frame that a grounded man holds, a frame that says, I am rooted, I will not be moved by chaos. Now listen closely, because this right here will change the way you see relationships forever. A woman's energy is meant to move. It's emotional, expressive, fluid, chaotic even, and it's beautiful, it's alive, it's raw, but that same chaos, if left unbalanced, can become destructive. Not because she is wrong for feeling, but because without the right container, that emotion can overflow and drown the relationship. That's where you come in. not as a savior, not as a controller, but as the frame, the calm, the stillness, the structure when she cries, when she spirals, when she tests, when she doubts. Your job is not to react with equal fire. Your job is to stay rooted, to hold your presence so deeply that her storm can rage and still feel safe. She doesn't need you to fix her emotions. She doesn't even need you to fully understand them. She just needs to know you won't abandon yourself when she feels lost in hers. Because the moment you get pulled into her emotional wave, when you start defending, proving, explaining, pleading, she loses trust in your frame. Not consciously, maybe, but somewhere deep in her feminine nervous system, a switch flips. She can no longer relax into you. She can no longer feel held. She can no longer feel safe. You see, women don't fall in love with control. They fall in love with containment. And containment doesn't mean domination. It means you have enough emotional mastery to remain calm in the fire. It means that while she flows, you hold. This isn't about silence or emotional suppression. This is about energetic leadership. It's about being the eye in the storm, the place she runs to. Not because you're perfect, but because you are steady. And steady men are rare. Because most men, when faced with a woman's emotional storm, collapse. They shut down. Or worse, they mirror her chaos. But a stoic man, he breathes, he observes, he listens not to fix but to understand. He anchors, and it's in that calm frame that she finds her softness again. Because when she sees, you won't leave. When she feels, you won't flinch. When she knows your peace is not for sale. That's when she melts. That's when her walls drop. That's when love becomes real. Understand this. Your emotional stillness is not a threat to her. It's the invitation. It's the reason she can express without fear. It's the reason she can be vulnerable without shame. Because your calm gives her permission to be wild and still be loved. That's masculine polarity in its highest form. And here's the truth most won't tell you. You don't get there by pretending to be calm. You get there by becoming calm, by facing your own shadows, by dealing with your own storms, by mastering yourself so deeply that someone else's chaos doesn't awaken your own. That's the journey, that's the real work. And when you do it, you stop losing women to drama. You stop being tested over and over. You stop reacting. You start leading, and not with control, but with presence. Because presence is what the feminine craves. Not a perfect man, not a rich man, not a jacked man, but a man who can hold her fully, without fear. Without running, without breaking. That is what makes you unforgettable. There's a moment, a sacred, silent moment, when a man stands up, looks at what no longer serves him, and walks away. No noise, no anger, no explanation, just stillness and choice. That moment, that's the moment a man becomes dangerous. You see, most men think dominance is loud. They think it means controlling her, overpowering the situation, forcing someone to love them back. But true dominance, true masculine power, is found in detachment. Let me say that again. Detachment is dominance. Because when you can walk away from anything that doesn't honor your value, you've already won. Now let me be honest. For many men, walking away feels impossible. Especially when you've invested your time, your emotions, your vulnerability. Maybe she was beautiful. Maybe she made you feel something you hadn't felt in years. Maybe, just maybe, you saw a future. But you also saw the red flags, you felt the disrespect, you noticed the games, you ignored the discomfort in your gut, because you didn't want to lose her. And that right there is where most men fall. They cling, they chase, they negotiate their worth to keep a woman who already showed she doesn't value it. But a man who knows his power never begs to be loved. He never pleads to be chosen. He doesn't perform to hold someone's attention. Because his love is not a discount, it's a full price offering. And if she can't receive it with respect, he walks. That's strength, that's confidence, that's high. Value energy. You see, detachment isn't about becoming numb. It's about becoming centered. It's knowing that your peace is more important than any connection. It's understanding that nothing outside of you is worth losing yourself for. And the truth is, the moment you embody that, people feel it. Women feel it. They can sense the man who is whole without them. The man who won't tolerate inconsistency, disrespect, or lukewarm love, not because he's bitter, but because he's clear. And clarity is magnetic. You stop asking, why did she pull away? You stop trying to decode her mixed signals. You stop chasing closure. Instead, you choose yourself, not with ego, but with self-honor. You look at the situation and say, this isn't love. This is confusion, and I don't chase confusion. I walk toward peace. Let me tell you what happens when you walk away with grace. You don't lose power, you gain it. You begin attracting women who feel your standard before you even speak. You begin commanding respect, not through manipulation, but through presence. You stop settling for temporary comfort, and you start building permanent peace. And yes, it will hurt at first. Letting go always does, especially when your heart was open, but staying where your soul is being dimmed. That hurts more, because every time you stay where you know you shouldn't, you lose a piece of yourself. You shrink, you silence your intuition, but when you walk away, you expand, you heal, you rise. You remind yourself, I am not afraid of being alone because I trust the man I'm becoming in the silence. And that trust, that self-trust, is what separates the average man from the Stoic man. So no, walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom, it's strategy, it's survival, and when you master detachment, not coldness but true non-attachment, you become unstoppable. Because a man who can walk away from anything that threatens his peace is a man who doesn't need to prove he's powerful, he already is. There is a certain kind of man who doesn't have to speak loudly to be heard. He doesn't have to chase women. He doesn't need to constantly prove who he is, because everything about him, his posture, his stillness, his focus, already tells the story. He is a man on a mission, a man in alignment, a Stoic man. He is magnetic, not because he's trying to be, but because he is undisturbed. You see, there is something undeniably attractive about a man who has found peace within himself, a man who is no longer ruled by the world, by women, by applause or attention. His energy says, I'm already full, and that fullness draws people in. Most men today are chasing something. A feeling, a woman, an escape from themselves. They're lost in loops, dopamine, distraction, and desperation. And the more they chase, the more they bleed value. But a Stoic man, he doesn't chase, he creates, he builds, he becomes, and in that process, in that discipline, in that silence, he becomes magnetic. Because a man who knows his purpose is a man who walks differently. His time isn't wasted, his emotions aren't scattered. His attention is sacred, and women feel that. They feel it in the way he listens without trying to impress, in the way he speaks with intention, not ego, in the way he can sit in stillness without needing to fill the air. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat with yourself in total silence and felt peace? No phone, no woman, no noise, just you and your purpose. Because until you can do that, until you can sit alone and not feel empty, you'll always chase things that make you forget how lost you are. But the moment you remember who you are, the moment you return to purpose, The moment you lock into the path you were born to walk, you stop asking, "How do I attract her?" And you start asking, "What am I here to build?" And that shift changes everything, because purpose makes you attractive. Peace makes you trustworthy, alignment makes you unforgettable. This is the paradox. The Stoic man gets everything he wants, not because he clings, but because he lets go. Not because he forces love, but because he lives love through discipline, through integrity, through direction. He's not perfect, he's not emotionless, but he is anchored, and when the world spins, when people betray, when love tests him, he doesn't lose himself. He remains, and that's what makes him rare. You want to be that man, then stop focusing on her. Start focusing on you. Your health, your purpose, your inner calm, your standards, your boundaries, your legacy. You become magnetic not by chasing love, but by embodying such peace and purpose that love finds you. Because feminine energy is drawn to masculine stability, and a Stoic man is the mountain she never forgets. So to the man listening to this right now, the one who's tired of games, tired of performing, tired of feeling like he has to be someone else to be loved, I want you to remember, you were never meant to chase. You were meant to stand, to lead, to create, to become. Because the most attractive thing you'll ever do is become a man at peace, with a purpose and a spine made of fire, and once you become him, you'll never need to beg again, because everything will start to come to you. If you made it to the end of this video, you're not like the rest. You didn't click away when it got uncomfortable. You didn't scroll when the truth hit home. You stayed, and that tells me one thing. You're not just looking for motivation. You're looking for transformation. Brother, you're not broken. You're not weak. You're just awakening. To your worth, to your power, to the man you were always meant to become. It's not easy walking this path. It's lonely, it's quiet, but I promise you, you're not alone. Every word in this video was for the man who's tired of being lost in noise. For the man who's done settling for crumbs. For the man who's ready to walk with purpose, peace, and unshakable power. And if that's you, then I want you to pause, take a breath, and make a decision, not for me, not for women, but for you to rise, to rebuild, to return to your Stoic bloodline. If this video moved you, if it challenged you, if it reminded you of who you really are, then don't just watch. Engage, like this video so it gets seen by more men who need this message. Comment below what part hit your soul the hardest. I read every word. Share this with a brother who's slipping, who's doubting, who's drowning in noise, and most importantly, subscribe to Stoic Bloodline. Because this isn't just content, this is a movement, and if you're still here, you are the movement. Until next time, stand tall, speak less, move with purpose, and never forget real power doesn't chase. It becomes.